Samriti ma'am, first of all, like, thank you for being on this podcast. Thank you for like making this happen. And
Thank you, Morris, for inviting me. It's also a great thing to kind of, talk to someone who can at least ask our views and put it across.
yeah, just to like start out, obviously for the viewers who watch Bada Business content, they for sure know who you are and what you do. But apart from Bada Business, also you have had a big experience in mass comm as an industry, in journalism as an industry. So if you could run someone in depth as to like who you are, what you have done till now, and currently what are you involved into? So what would that be?
I have actually, been, as you said, in the mass media journalism industry, and I was working in that industry for the last 12 years till I made a career switch into Bada Business, which is not journalism, but also similarly a part of mass media in some sense.
Yeah.
It's a digital platform. And I started my career with, doing reporting with NETV. And I
Okay.
used to be a city reporter, and I worked with NETV for a year, and then I moved to ET Now, and I started doing business journalism there.
Okay.
And I used to cover verticals like marketing, advertising, FMCG. And then from ET Now, I moved to Times Now, which is the general news channel of the same group.
Yeah.
And I started doing general news at that point of time. And I was doing features for Times Now. Features means weekend programming. They are more of, soft shows and soft stories that come
Okay.
on the channel, not really hardcore news that you see every day at prime time. And so that's what my journey had been for the last 11 years or so.
Yeah.
And then finally I decided I want to take a switch and I want to move to digital, because digital was looking as the next leap right now. And I was also bored with television,
Yeah.
because I think I was bored by doing the same kind of work and I wanted to experience more in life.
Yeah.
And this opportunity with Bada Business came by, and I thought that I'll take the plunge and see how I like it. And I started doing content for them, and I started doing courses for them, their problem solving courses and their EAE content, because my hold in content is very strong,
Yeah.
and that's what I like doing also.
Yeah.
So therefore I started heading that division there. And it's been, I think, about 4 months that I've been with them, and the journey has been pretty nice and pretty, I would say, like a roller coaster and a hustle, because it's a startup and you really like working sometimes in a hustle like that.
Yeah. Also, for the viewers who watch your content, they like the way you articulate the message in your videos, the way you communicate your part. So I feel that
I'm
even if
really
it's,
glad.
yeah, even if
Yeah,
it's
I'm
four
really
months,
glad they do.
yeah, even if it's 4 months, the journey is good.
Really happy to hear a positive feedback from you. And the good thing is that all of us are so connected with social media these days, that even if they don't like something, they're very open about it, and they tell you that,
Yeah.
Samriti ma'am, we didn't understand this thing, of but till now, luckily, I haven't got a negative feedback, if I can brag a little about myself.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I get feedback and I understand that, what you're liking, what is the pulse of the viewer.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to work on more, because if what I'm saying and what I'm teaching, if you don't understand that, and if it doesn't help you, then the purpose of my just delivering the content will not help either.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's my focus, that it should help in some way.
Yeah. I had read this somewhere that with the internet, information is available to everyone. Like there is no information which is hidden from someone. So now what has become more important than information is the delivery of information. Like, okay, Google can give you the facts that, okay, these are the things, but it really matters as to who is explaining the facts, who is uh, simplifying the facts and bringing it in front of you. So I think that on that domain, you're doing a pretty good job.
Great, thank you. And that's a good side of, I think, another side of the story that you've put together, which is the delivery of content and how easily you can make it understand to the viewer. Because as you said, yes, content is available everywhere. There are books and there are 1,000 articles you can find on the internet. But whether you understand, and if the delivery can make you understand, then it solves the purpose completely.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask this fact that how did, like, after a long journey into journalism, how did Bada Business happen? Like, was it that you received an offer and that's when you got this thought that, okay, it's time that maybe we can make a switch? Or was it that you were already looking out for career changes and that's when this thing popped up and like the two things just intersected? And
So I won't say so. I obviously I was looking for a career change. Yes, that was in my mind and was at the back of my mind as well.
Yeah,
But I was so happy and complacent in my job in times now, because you had reached a position, you had a team, you were so comfortable with everything
yeah,
that you think twice before leaving something and going into anything, even if it
yeah.
wasn't bada business, it was something else. But the whole change, I think, happened was when I finally decided. Actually, there's a great saying which says, "You propose and God disposes it."
Yeah.
So I had decided to start my own work. Actually, I was getting into freelancing and thinking of getting into starting a small time production house, and taking my own journey like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I did also when I quit Times last year around Diwali time. I did start, doing freelance work, and because of my reputation and how I have worked with people, I did get a good chunk of work as well. And I think at that point of, and I did that for 2-3 months actually, and I was liking it also.
Okay.
But I think someone referred me to the Bada Business team, because they were looking to, find someone who can take care of the content piece well, and help them speeden up the process of their courses and their interviews, etc.
Yeah.
And Bada Business had been associated with the Times Group, on a few events. And I
Okay.
think someone referred my name to them, and that's how we got in touch. And I don't know, I just took the plunge. I won't say I was thinking so much that, oh, I wanted to do my own work. Why am I getting into a job again?
Yeah.
All those thoughts came into my mind, and everything crossed my mind. But I just, it just says, I thought that maybe it's, as I said, God had disposed the idea right now of doing
Yeah.
something on your own.
Yeah.
So I just took up the opportunity, and I thought that let me see how this goes.
Yeah. Uh, I want this question, like, so when I had the surety that, okay, this podcast is happening, I put it up on my Instagram that if there are any mass com related students, if there are any journalism aspiring students, I asked them to drop their questions. And one particular question was that after 10th standard, like, there are some students who have it certain that, okay, I want to become an engineer. So that ought to
Yeah.
say that you have to take the science field. There's no doubt about that. Some people say that, okay, I want to become a chartered accountant. That means that you have to take the commerce field. When it comes to journalism, the area is very dicey. Like, firstly, not everyone coming out of 10th has this thought that, okay, I'll go into the journalism industry. So that's one bit of it. But the second bit is that people are unsure that, okay, given the fact that I am taking journalism, given the fact that I have convinced my parents that this is happening, what is the way ahead? Like, what's after 10th?
See, I think 10th is too soon really to uh, actually decide a career for yourself. But I think kids today are really smart, and they really know what they want to do. Because when I was in 10th standard, I had this idea that I want to do something with a creative field.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether I will do journalism, media, advertising. There could be many things. And digital was nowhere in the picture at that point of time when I was in school. And I'm not going to tell you my age, of course. So I'm not telling you which year that was.
Okay.
But uh, there's also an advantage with journalism, that if you even take a commerce or an arts or a science or anything, you
Yeah.
can switch it.
Yeah.
So that's an advantage journalism or any mass comm field has, because you don't need like for an engineering, you need a math, science, physics, that sort of a background. For if you're going to pursue an MBA, people prefer they have a commerce background, because they have business studies, they have accounting, they
Yeah.
have all these things. But with journalism and mass media, nothing is like that.
Yeah.
So, if you're very sure that you want to do journalism or you want to get into mass media, then I would suggest you can look at the arts route.
Okay.
Because what happens in arts is that it just polishes your skills, and it polishes your knowledge, and it polishes your EQ, and the intelligence to understand things in a different perspective.
Yeah.
And also it polishes your English skills very well, because with arts you also learn about Shakespeare, and you kind of read their plays, and you read a lot of novels, which doesn't happen in the other streams so much.
Yeah.
But if you're not sure, and you're still a little dicey about what you want to get into, then take the stream you're good at. Don't think too much in your 10th grade, at least I would say, because you have an 11th, 12th, you have your college after that.
Yeah.
Even in college you can pursue a mass comm actually degree, so
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same actually.
Uh,
So take your time in 10th, like when you what you like, you choose that post 10th. And if you're so sure, then go ahead with arts. Yeah, there's nothing stopping you then.
Yeah, actually, so the girl who reached out to me just gave her 10th standard this year. And
Okay.
when I spoke with her on DM, she said that I also tried to explain her initially the same thing that, dude, as far as I know, I don't think Masscom has some specific course or something. But then she said that she went to some career counselor who made her sit, and she's like almost 16, 17. And the career counselor is telling her that what work do you see yourself doing at the age of 28, at the age of 35? And she's kind of intimidated by that, at the age of 16, how can you even think of me figuring that out? And he's like, no, you have to figure it out, whatever, that's how you select your degree. And that's
See,
why she
I
had
don't
this.
know. I have never been to a career counselor. I really can't say how they how they map their things and sort of can give a result. But who knew that I would be getting into an ed tech platform? Someone who's done 10 years of journalism.
Yeah,
I never thought that in my life actually. And if someone would have asked me at the age of 16 that at 32 or 33 where will you be? I would have definitely not been able to answer it, irrespective of how much famous I would have become in my career or successful in my career.
yeah,
But the thing is that if she looking at a short term picture and looking at what should be her next steps, I think she has nothing to worry. If she is very sure about that she wants to get into mass comm and writing and journalism or something like that, she can definitely opt for arts. But if she's not interested in those subjects and she likes a commerce background, please go ahead, go for it. It's fine.
yeah,
Because anyways, you have an 11th, 12th, where you need to score marks. Our education system is such where you need to score marks, actually,
yeah,
unfortunately. But and if after 12th she realizes, no, that's my calling and that's what I want to do, then go ahead, do your degree, your bachelor's degree in mass comm. No one is stopping you at that point of time.
yeah, exactly. Next, what I wanted to ask was that there are certain students who kind of feel that, okay, maybe mass comm is my thing, but they are not sure whether like they should take the plunge or not. So for a kid who is, let's say, 17 to 20, that age bracket, what are the personality traits which they should introspect within themselves, that, okay, are these things there within me? And if yes, then maybe mass comm is your way ahead. So what's that out?
So, one thing you have to realize that if you're getting into a creative field, you cannot work like a corporate job.
Yeah,
So ये तो अंतर, this decision you have to make that, listen, because I think I can't do a 9 to 5 job. I can't do it. मुझे अगर आप बोलो कि आजा बैठ के ये कर दो, तो मुझसे शायद वो नहीं होगा. And even today, when I'm almost 12 years into a career, I would never want to do that. So, you have to realize your calling firstly. You
yeah,
have to have that calling that I want to get into something creative, and that's where I find my satisfaction, because that is also very important somewhere in life when you're working.
yeah,
So that is one thing, and that is actually true for every field, because those who are really passionate about finance then should get into finance.
yeah,
They shouldn't really think of getting into something else because a friend is doing it.
yeah,
So
exactly.
that calling has to be there for sure. But for mass comm and for media related fields, if you're looking at being someone who wants to be at the front end, then you need to have good communication. You have to build that,
Yeah,
because eventually if you want to, and there's too much competition here also. Aisa nahi hai ki the rat race is only there, everywhere it's the same.
yeah,
So if you're looking to build something on front end, or be a reporter, or be a writer, you have to build those communication skills, you have to build those writing skills. So do work on that. Aisa nahi hai ki everyone's born with it, and these are all skills that can be built upon. So
yeah,
if you have an interest, you start building on it, and there are lots of things that one can do without any paid course or anything like that, and do some exercises to build them themselves.
yeah,
So these definitely communication, research orientation, because when you're into a field like mass comm, a lot of background research really matters. Whether you're doing a news story, whether you're doing a project, whether you're doing an article, whether you're writing a book, whether you're doing content writing, so you need to build these skills. Creativity, obviously, I think these are all creative fields, so somewhere you need to be a creative junkie.
yeah,
Something creative has to be, that spark has to be in you.
yeah,
Have that slight eye for detailing बहुत I think matter करती है when you're in these fields.
yeah,
And one thing I think, if you have to take media, you have to be flexible about the fact that you will have a tough life.
okay,
They have to realize that the life will be tough. It will not be, you will not get all those national holidays that you wanted to, especially if you're getting into journalism.
Yeah.
because there is that sacrifice that you have to make. You are into a profession like that.
Yeah.
So be flexible about it. It is not going to be कि हाँ आपको हर Saturday Sunday you'll get off, you'll get family time, you're going to get all national holidays.
Yeah.
That's a trade-off you have to make for the love of your job.
Yeah. So
So
everything
that
comes with pros and
flexibility,
cons.
yeah. So that flexibility you have to adapt yourself to, especially if you're getting into journalism.
Yeah. Makes
Maybe in
sense.
other areas like maybe digital or let's say content writing, etc., you might not be, your schedule might not be as tough.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking of getting into something like journalism, you have to be prepared for that.
Understood. Next, what I wanted to ask you was that when it comes to journalism, there is a lack of awareness in our generation and our parents' generation as well. Wherein, like, suppose if today someone says to their parents that, hey, I want to go into journalism, most probably it's like they know only 2 or 3 things. Okay, maybe you can become a TV anchor, maybe you can become someone who publishes articles in the newspaper. So there are these top 2, 3, 4 headlines which everyone knows. No one knows what is the beyond of journalism. And I'm for sure that for a news channel that's running 24/7, it's not these 2, 3 people running the show. There's a ton of
course.
crew that's happening behind the show that leads to that episode going air. So, like, I wanted to know that uh, everyone knows the popular ones, like the anchor, the top guys who are in the front end. But who are the people involved in the back end? Like, what are the job descriptions for mass comm? What are the job options?
So it's pretty much same as when you actually go and see a movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen the amount of credits that come?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first 3 credits are your lead actors,
Yeah.
but uske baad the credits are for the entire crew and cast.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what happens in journalism and TV journalism as well, because as much effort that we are putting to see or put something on front end,
Yeah.
back end has that much work going in.
Yeah.
So getting to your very pointed question on job roles, obviously the more fancy ones everyone knows. You have anchors, you have reporters, you also know cameramen who are there with the reporters and anchors usually. But the other aspects that are there in a television channel, if I'm just supposed to talk of a television channel right now,
Yeah.
there could be things from, there's an entire technical department that goes into seeing that the news goes perfectly seamlessly on air.
Yeah.
So that's the one technical side of it. We call something which is called an assignment or a desk.
Okay.
And those people are actually looking after copy editing and copywriting of the news piece, of the headlines,
Yeah.
of what will go on air, of so that's a separate section of skill and people that work on it. They also keep tab on instantly what news is happening.
Yeah.
There are few job roles that have to take care of take inputs from everywhere from India, like from the country, because
Yeah.
we're all a national news channel, to actually see what is happening nationally.
Yeah.
So you need someone to keep track of that as well. There are people who manage resources in terms of where a camera will go, what news will be covered, who are we interviewing. That is one aspect of it. The other aspect is guests. We have so many guests these days who come on air, because
Yeah.
most of the bulletins are actually debates and discussions.
Yeah.
So to kind of look at who's going to fit the bill, the topics, etc. There are research teams that research topics that for anchors,
Yeah.
help them with let's say information and data points that can help them in their debates.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing, we have a production control room which we call a PCR, where you have your directors who direct the anchor, who make sure that everything is going on air perfectly, the graphics are running side by side, nothing is going mismatched. That's the control room that we call for us.
Yeah.
Then you have even the graphics team. There are so many graphics you see on air these days. We have a proper graphics team. We have editors who edit the news.
Yeah.
So this is just one, I'm talking about a news channel and one side of it. But similarly, print has again, X number of job roles that go into, apart from only reporters who are going and taking down stories.
Exactly.
So every, I think, media vertical, or anything in mass comm, has all type of job roles, the front end and the back end, and both have to really simultaneously work together and seamlessly, because if the back end doesn't function well, the front end will fail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So these are a host of job roles that happen in television. So you really don't have to just think of coming in and becoming an anchor.
Yeah.
In fact, you should never think that, because you will never learn the trade then.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you should come in and do a lot of more other things and build on that skill. There are so many producers we have, and producers actually guide us, like anchors, that this is how we should do. This is what I'm looking at, how the show should be. This is how I'm looking at how it will look on air. So this is what we can do. And
Yeah.
then maybe the anchor puts in a lot of effort. So actually the anchor has a lot of job is made easier for the anchor actually by the other people.
Okay. And this piece of information which you said, if it gets mainstream, like if more and more people come to know that, okay, like right now the entire vibe is that if I'm taking journalism, it's a gamble on my career. Why? Because not everyone can become the primetime news anchor. But if this
Sure.
information gets spread to more people, that okay, it's not just the anchor who earns money, it's even the graphic guy who's earning money, it's even the guy who's researching who's earning money. So that's when people get to know that okay, this is some real profession happening and it's not just a gamble that's happening.
Yeah, it cannot function beyond because if these guys are not there in the system.
Yeah.
So everyone has to realize that journalism is also like a business unit.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone is doing their job to make sure that the news comes on air.
Yeah.
So those units also have to work. अब in a business unit marketing नहीं होगा और हम sales करते रहेंगे तो लोगों को पता ही नहीं चलेगा कि product है.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's exactly like that. Everyone, in fact, even TV has its own set of marketing sales, but that's a different, completely different genre if you want to get into.
Yeah.
But if I'm purely talking about the business of news and how news has to be delivered, there are at least like some 40 job roles that I can actually write and give you right now without even doing my research and thinking about it, that people can pursue in journalism.
Crazy. Next, what I wanted to ask you was that, again, from the student's point of view, a lot of kids who are, after completing the 12th, on the verge of making a decision as to which stream they are entering into, they have this question that, okay, for the proper, I mean, mainstream job roles, like for an MBA, for a chartered accountant, for an engineer, you know that these guys, right after completing the funnel of their education, they are going to land on X package. As in, if they are decent, like if they're sane in their heads, they are going to land at an X package, unless they mess up real good time. If that's not happening, they are getting a good package. When it comes to mass comm, people are skeptical. Like I had this word with a guy like a long time back. He is something into journalism, and he said something along the lines of that, when you're into journalism, yes, the day your college ends, your CA friend will be earning more than you, your MBA friend will be earning more than you, but journalism is about the passion that you want to follow that route, and eventually you pace up, and eventually your also paycheck goes up. Now, all that is fine, but for a 17-year-old kid who lives in a country wherein we are told from the, like right from our kindergarten, we are made the sense that, okay, why are you getting education? To get that paycheck. So when they hear something like this, they are like, okay, hold on. Passion can be followed afterwards. First, let's figure out the paycheck. And that's when they say that, no, this is not happening. So if you could just break down the money part inside mass communication, like if a mass communication guy finishes his college, is he earning decent? Like, I'm not saying that is he getting rich. I'm asking, is he earning decent as compared to all the other professions?
So if you ask me an honest answer, I would say no.
Okay.
Because journalism and mass comm is a slightly underpaid profession.
Okay.
Compared to, yes, if you compare it with your CA friends, and if you compare it with people who've just completed their MBAs in engineering and are getting into an Infosys or big companies, or even if it's banks for that matter.
Yeah.
So definitely, someone who's getting into mass comm or journalism has to really like the work.
Yeah.
Because has to take out this notion from his head that, oh, why does my ex-friend who works in HDFC or Bank of America earn so much more than me, and I don't work that much? I don't earn that much. Why is that so? We've done pretty much the same education or whatever, something like, or we're the same age.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of, get over this from your head. But the other side, if I have to tell you, if you are creative, you cannot do that job, what your CA friend is doing. You will not like it.
Yeah.
So you might want to go there for the money into a corporate, but you yourself will leave and come back.
Yeah.
So
That
it's,
makes sense.
it's also your own personal likes and your personal calling and your personal passion. And one thing I've also learned in my life, you cannot run after money. Let the money run after you. If you're good, I'm telling you, the money will run after you. So
Okay.
don't run after it. Focus on your skill, focus on what you like, focus on understanding what you want to really do and be good at that.
Yeah.
Work on that first.
Yeah.
Money
Understood.
will come, and money will come as
Yeah.
you grow, money will also grow.
Yeah.
Another thing, I'll give you a quick example here also. Like my I have a lot of banker friends, and I also have friends who are CAs, etc. And they keep asking me, how interesting is your profession? I mean, you meet new people every day, you interview people, learn about so many topics. हमें वहीं हर रोज we have to go to office, we have to meet the same clients, we have to figure out how we'll get more money this time.
Yeah.
So they think from their perspective now. So
Yeah.
they are earning, but they're not very happy with their job, and they find it a struggle to
Grass
go
is
every
greener the
day
other
and
side.
fetch for that client or fetch for whatever their target is.
Yeah.
And then they come back home and they might crib about it.
Yeah.
But we might also crib. I'm not saying we don't crib, but we won't crib that much.
Yeah.
So our cribbing is on a different scale or level.
Yeah.
And they are so excited about the fact that we meet people and new people and we explore new things. I mean, how many of them, you tell me, how many of them can do a podcast the next day and say that, come, I'm going to take a podcast from someone who's really cool, etc., and
Yeah.
understand from her or his learnings? They can't
Yeah.
do it. But
Exactly.
we even if we are not someone great, we can still manage all that. We can still get those things out to fulfill our creative passions.
Masscom gives you
So
great networking.
exactly, it does. Great networking, great learning, great insight about how to present yourself. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
see the upside of it also. So I'm saying, don't think of, as you pass out college, your entry package
Yeah.
is so less than X. It's
Yeah.
okay. Try it out.
Yeah.
Figure out yourself. See what you like and be damn good at it.
Understood.
Once you do that, you will also grow and the money will also grow.
Yeah. And I really liked your point, which you said that, like, to break it down for the audience, salary is not a menu card that a CA arrow this much, an MBA arrow this much. It's up to your personal skill. And that's what makes sense, that if I am someone who is good at talking, and if I look that, okay, MBA average package 20 lakh, I'm not good at the thing. Even if I get into MBA, I won't become a good MBA. And that's when I won't land at an average package of 20 lakhs. Like,
Or you
maybe,
might also, land at
yeah,
a package of 20 lakh because no one has tested you right now. But when you have to switch
yeah,
and you will not be, you've not done great in your organization and you don't have anything much to boast about
yeah,
in terms of
exactly.
your skills, you will not move from the 20 to 30 so soon. You will
Yeah,
be stuck somewhere.
yeah, makes sense.
So therefore, if you have that creative bent of mind and want to pursue mass comm, please go ahead, explore it,
Yeah, exactly.
and then figure out the one good thing that you're really going to pursue, and make yourself the best at it actually.
Yeah. Uh, Connecting something to this question, like I didn't have this pen down, but this just came instantly. Was that a lot of kids these days are into a dilemma of one of these two career paths? So there is this one theory which says that till you reach the age of 27, till you start taking responsibilities of your family and all, you are to yourself. Like, you don't have to pay someone else. Like, you have to just look after yourself, right? So between this age bracket, like 18 to 27, do whatever you want to do. Like, if you have the weirdest dream, run behind it. Because after the age of 27, after having a kid at home, after having a wife at home, you can't imagine that, okay, I'm now going to pursue my passion. No, you have to pay the bills. There are people who are for your, like, they are dependent on you, right? So a lot of people say that till 27, follow your passion. If it happens, good. If not, 27, pick up a mainstream line and start getting your regular paycheck, and that's it. Another side of the coin says that no, you need to have a basic income first. You need to have a basic savings first. After that, only you can think of passion. So what they say is, like, if you are 17, 18 making career choices, don't make something very vague. Like, go behind the mainstream, do a job for like 4 5 years, you get that initial savings amount, save up to like 1 year without, so you can stretch like 1 year without any earnings, and then think that, okay, now what can I do, now what passion can I follow? If that works out, great. If not, once again, fall back on your degree and go back on your mainstream job. So in your opinion, which of these two are the better option to choose?
It's a very chicken and egg question that you've given me, because in both situations I don't think both are ideal.
Okay.
And for someone, the first one might work, and for someone the second option might work. So it's too actually focused on what the individual is like.
Yeah.
So I never understood this this whole idea of having an income, saving pehle, and then maybe trying out something that I could do. Because frankly speaking, I'm also from a business family. Half my family is business, from a business background, and the other half are all doctors.
Okay.
So nobody really thought of journalism and mass comm in my really in my family. And the whole idea for them was, for me was, I could have joined my family business, maybe get money from there, earn whatever, keep it aside, and then pursue my passion. Or I could have pursued my passion because theek hai, ghar pe someone would have taken care of it. So it actually really depends on your system and
Yeah.
your how your actually surrounding is.
Yeah.
Some people don't have the luxury to really pursue a passion from 18 to 27 and not earn anything during that time, or earn really little.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's a call that you have to make, and that's a decision that you have to make, that is it viable for you to do that.
Yeah.
uh, and I always feel that make your passion your career. It's very simple for me.
Okay.
I cannot, I will never tell anybody that you first do, a bank job for 8 years, then you do your passion. If you realize after your 8 years that this is my passion, that's a separate story.
Yeah.
But if from day one you know that nahi bhai mujhe photography hi karni hai, then
Hmm.
why are you trying other things? What is stopping you? If money is the problem, then I understand. Then I think you have to make ways of doing something that can help you still pursue your passion in some ways.
Side hustle.
Because eventually, it's sad, but everyone does not have the luxury to pursue a passion without having an income sometimes,
Yeah.
or earning really just the basics.
Yeah. I had read this quote somewhere which said that following passion is cool, but only following your passion is a rich man's sport. So I think,
That could
yeah,
be true
that's,
for, yeah, it's actually, it's sad, but that's how life is, what to do.
yeah.
And it's not easy for everybody, and life doesn't give that golden platter to everybody as well.
Yeah.
And god forbid if your passion is something like ski boarding or something, then I don't even know what you can do about it.
Yeah. Makes
So
sense.
it's really, yeah, it's really to each one its own, if I can put it that ways.
Yeah.
But I would always say do what you like.
Hmm.
I won't say that get into something because you think कि नहीं, that is going to give me 50K a month, or this is going to give me 60K a month. वो आ जाएगा, वो
Yeah.
आएगा और आएगा ही, सबकी लाइफ में आता है.
Hmm.
Someone gets it later, someone gets it before, but it will come in your life. But do something which you are fulfilled with. Don't come home and crib every day about it.
Yeah.
That's one thing I want to tell anybody, for any profession you choose.
Yeah. Makes sense. Next, I wanted to ask you was that right now in the field of journalism, there like the internet is taking over a big chunk of it, in a way that there are these independent pages on Instagram or on Facebook who are having a huge follower base. Like some of them are playing in millions, and what they do essentially is like, yeah, any news breaks, they like cover it in the form of a 1 minute video or a long IGTV or a post, and they put it on Instagram. And a lot of people, especially my age, they like to consume their content from Instagram because there are these sources where you can easily and in real time that thing gets updated over there. So do you think that this in any way is harming the prime time, like the TV or the newspapers right now? And if not right now, then where do you see the future heading, like 5 or 10 years from now?
So I remember someone asked me this question, something similar about 5 years back as well, when the digital boom had just started.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the last 5 year digital boom has been a skyrocket actually.
Yeah.
No one expected that boom to be so fast and so dynamic.
Yeah.
But if you're saying that will primetime television remain relevant in the next 5 years? Um, I would say yes to some extent.
Okay.
Why? Because we know that obviously there's no denying about the fact digital news has grown, consumption has grown. People want to see shorter snippets and get more information in shorter timings now. That is, there is no denying in that fact, for sure, and that is growing also in a great way.
Yeah,
But also, I think another reason that has led to the downfall of primetime news is the way news has become. It's become a joke.
yeah.
So, people
There
are
was
not
there was
interested
this.
in that.
Yeah, like I don't want to cut you over here, but there was this meme somewhere which said that uh, right now, like in the times that we are living in, news channels are delivering jokes and meme pages are delivering news.
News. Quite well said, actually.
Yeah,
But they're responsible for their own downfall in some way.
yeah,
Who thought that primetime debates 3-4 years were like that? I mean, I was an avid follower of primetime debates myself.
yeah,
So, they have added to their downfall with the rise of digital also,
yeah,
in some ways. But, the reach of TV is crazy. And we have to agree to the fact that the kind of million households that TV reaches right now,
yeah,
digital still has time to sort of, reach that sort of number.
yeah,
And that is where prime time is saved right now,
yeah.
just because of the sheer numbers and the reach it can guarantee, especially when we talk about Hindi,
Yes,
because the digital medium is not
vernacular.
really, I won't say not really caught on with that audience. It has, it's I won't really deny it, but but for them, Hindi news is their first basic, let's say, consumption of news that they take.
Yeah,
They are using social media for other things, but not necessarily news.
yeah,
But for English prime time, yes, I think they should definitely watch out. And sooner or later, if they don't change or reinvent themselves in some way, they are going to become, I would say, redundant, or
yeah,
people are going to abandon them,
yeah,
because digital will grow and will do much better things.
yeah. Makes sense.
So, English prime time definitely should think about it.
Yeah. In this, like the point which you mentioned about prime time news channels, they reach to the roots of the country. I feel that a major reason for that is that in the digital space, as far as I know, the only mistake that they're making is with terms of specifically news related content. The content is produced in English and then translated into vernacular languages. And that's when the connect kind of breaks. I feel that once digital understands the thing that okay, India is a country that lies on vernacular content, and when they go into the thing that okay, we'll start making like from scratch vernacular content, that's when I think that okay, people will also get used to getting news on their tabs or their phones or something like
Definitely,
that.
and that awakening has started coming. You
Yeah,
have now digital, news hubs. You have digital agencies, companies that
yeah,
are only doing vernacular, that are
yeah,
only doing Hindi, that are only doing local content,
yeah,
because they have realized that people understand and connect to that much better.
yeah. Makes
So
sense.
that change and shift has already started coming. That's why I'm
Yeah,
saying that if TV does not reinvent somewhere itself, then it's going to be abandoned. But in
yeah.
the next 5 years, I don't see that happening, at least with Hindi news channels.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just to gamble a number, what year would you put your finger on? Like 2025, 2030, what would be that year? Wherein, let's keep aside Hindi, let's talk about English primetime news channels. They will be, I'm not saying like left to zero, but they will realize the fact that, okay, we are getting hurt. That's the question.
Oh, they've already started realizing that. It's not that
Okay,
they don't realize it. They
okay.
have started realizing that, and that's why every big news organization has a digital arm today.
Yeah,
Whether you talk about the Times Group, whether you talk about Indian Express, or anything,
yeah,
any news organization, India Today group, the CNN group, everyone has a digital arm these days, and they
yeah,
are actually pumping in a lot of money in their digital arm, and they're
yeah,
growing that because they see the next set of growth coming from there.
yeah,
So it's not that they don't realize that the downfall is there. They do see that, but right now, because of the sheer reach and numbers, TV is more viable for them. I
makes
would
sense.
just say that.
Yeah, that makes sense. The next question which I wanted to ask was that with a country having the audience demographics of India, uh, do you see any time in future we reach a time wherein news becomes the thing wherein people are buying subscriptions, people are paying to watch news? Like people say that, okay, I pay for Netflix every month, I pay for Amazon Prime every month. Why not pay for relevant and correct news information every single month, so that I don't like the news, the people who are delivering the news, they don't have to become ad friendly, they don't have to please the advertisers, and they can provide me the correct subtle information which I want. So do you think that's happening anytime soon with the demographics of India?
No, I don't think it's happening anytime soon, definitely.
Okay.
Because, though the West has this trend, and global publications like your New York Times and Wall Street, they have, shown that way to Indian publishers in a way that you can maximize digital revenues with a healthy mix of subscriptions and ad-based models. But um, I don't think Indian audiences are ready to pay for news like that right now.
Yeah.
Also, depending also the kind of value we are giving them right now.
Yeah.
So either you increase the value that you're going to give them,
Yeah.
and you give them something that they are going to appreciate.
Yeah.
But if you're going to give this content converted into digital and then selling it on a subscription based model, I don't think they're interested.
Yeah.
Then you have, as you said, so many ad-based platforms, Insta, Twitter, everything has news. Yeah, what's the big deal? I'm not surprised if Netflix and Amazon start a 24-hour news update on their,
Yeah.
on their forum. Then what are you going to do? Because that they're going to offer in that same price where they're offering your Netflix series and your Amazon Prime, the entire kitty that they have.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I don't think only a subscription based model is ever going to work right now.
Yeah.
So the actually the factors that are going to define that will be your quality, your relevance of content, your depth. All those things will have to be worked upon. And subscription might have its penetration, it might do it, but you will have to keep a balance between ad revenues, and you cannot just live on that. Right now, our Indian audiences are not that mature to consume news only on a
Yeah.
pay basis model. I'm doubtful about it.
I had read, like while I was researching for this podcast, I had read a blog which said that, as you mentioned, if you just take up the information and put it in a video format and tell people that, okay, give me money for this, that's not happening, at least anytime soon. But if you enter into a space like personal branding, like you have a person who is commenting on the news, like who is giving his own commentary, who is giving his own opinions, that can potentially lead to at least the urban, at least the millennial audience paying for the news, because that's when people say that, okay, I can get my news from anywhere. Google is in fact free. I can just get it on a click of Google. But
Sure.
the opinions of this guy, the commentaries of this guy, that's what I can pay for. So that is one thing which I had heard of.
Well, if they can find people who are going to give unbiased and completely true to what the viewer wants to really hear, a viewpoint sort of commentary,
Yeah.
then why not? Yeah, great, that would be really nice. Because I feel more than the newspapers these days, I read the columns that are there in the newspaper which come over the weekends, because there they actually put an analysis on a news piece or something like that.
Okay.
Just basic news that a headline would give me. I might just read the headline, I might not read the body at all, and I'm not
Yeah.
interested in that. But I definitely make a point that on my weekend, reading of my newspaper, and that I do, or because I mostly consume my news from either TV or digital. I'm not a very print friendly person in that sense, but I still make a point that I read the columns and the opinions that come over the weekend, because at least that gives me an analysis into what an intelligent other mind is thinking, and how he's thinking and perceiving things,
Yeah.
from his end. So
Yeah.
if you can build a model like that and can find people who can do that for you, that would be great, actually.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you
Next.
have to give them that individual, autonomy to do that. You can't put a
Yeah.
pressure on them. Okay, we don't do things like that, so you can't do this. So
Yeah,
you
makes
have to
sense.
give them that freedom to give that opinion.
The organization should revolve around the person, not the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, I wanted to ask you was that we hear a lot of people who are into the mainstream corporate life, 9 to 5 and all, crib a lot that there's a lot of corporate politics and all in our offices and all. But this is like just my hypothesis that in a normal office, these guys work on their computers, they work on their own projects, and maybe the level of corporate politics, yes, it's there, but on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe it could be like on a 4 or 5. When it comes to a field in media, and not just journalism, but journalism included and all the other things related to media, I feel that corporate politics reaches a scale of 8 or 9, because that's essentially people dealing with people all the time. There's no real tangible product. It's just people dealing with people that puts out the show, that these are service based industries. So do you think journalism as an industry has corporate politics? If yes, to what level, and like how can one overcome it who is entering into the industry?
Actually, I think it's a notion. Corporate politics is everywhere. We all know that,
Yeah,
and it's similar everywhere.
yeah,
So if it's a media organization, or if it's a tech organization, or if it's let's say a financial organization, everywhere you'll have same type of corporate politics. It might vary in the level a little bit. It might vary in the nature a little bit, but
yeah,
for har jagah it's like that only. You know, it's just the way how actual politics is. Na UP में भी वैसी है, MP में भी वैसी है, राजस्थान में भी वैसी है.
hmm.
It's just who is behind it and what is the nature.
Yeah,
So and to say that media has might be there is more corporate politics, I don't think so.
okay,
I see, considering I didn't work anywhere else, I can't really compare two organizations or two different verticals right now. But what I hear of from my friends, colleagues, etc., and people I meet, I don't think there's too much difference in terms of, if I have to say, only, if whereas corporate politics is concerned, only the fact that media, the culture is more outgoing and open.
yeah,
Maybe people think that usme aisa hoga, or
yeah.
there'll be more politics like that. But I don't think really that's the case. And at least in a media organization, you can shout it and voice your opinion freely and do that, which you can't do it maybe in
Yeah,
a corporate, very strict sort of culture that you have.
yeah, that makes sense.
So I disagree to this. I don't think corporate politics is more in media organizations.
Okay. Next, what I wanted to ask was that media in general in India has this whole vibe that okay, this is some shady thing going on. Because in normal things, like if a kid is going to the office, going at 9, coming back at 5, the parents are okay. He is into his job. He comes back at 5 p.m. Max reaches home by 6, and things are doing great. He gets his salary at the end of the month. Cool. It's all good. When it comes to media, as you also mentioned in the earlier part of the podcast, that there are instances wherein your timing might not be flexible, because if something is trending, if something is happening, you need to go to catch that up. So do you think that this entire buzz that is going on, that okay, media has shady things happening, and to specific, there are like drugs and all happening in the media industry on a very large scale, do you think it's true, and how much of it is a hoax?
See, again, that's a notion that has developed because, again, of media culture being so open.
Yeah,
But I have been associated with TV for the last 12 years, and I can guarantee you, in my circle in TV, or the people I have worked, with, they've not used media an excuse to do anything shady or do drugs or do anything for that matter.
okay,
So if a kid wants to do it, he is going to do it irrespective,
yeah,
whether it's media, whether it's a bank, whether it's an advertising, whether it's, I don't know, let me take something more formal like a IT company, let's say.
yeah,
So it's more to do with the kind of people or the kind of things he is seeing and being exposed to.
yeah,
So if a kid wants to do anything, his profession is not really going to push it. And
yeah,
by anything, I meant anything wrong or shady in that sense, if you have to put it.
okay,
So I think the parents had. I'm hoping that their notions are changing and they want to send more of their kids to into the field of media. I think the parents were skeptical earlier because of obviously the odd timings that media can have, and unfortunately, that's the nature of the job. But there is complete security given during that time when if you're going late or coming early. There are all the perks like that are given to you so that you reach your office on time.
yeah,
You don't have problems doing that,
yeah,
and to associate a late night shift or something that even call centers have. Yeah, so why not kids could have done all those things even in call centers,
yeah,
and
makes
hota
sense.
bhi hoga. I'm
Hmm.
not really denying that fact. So just to put it, because it's a slightly glamorized version of a profession, for that matter, even if it was films, or let's say if it was serials, there could have been another level of things happening there.
Yeah,
So just because we associate a little glamour with the profession, people think that ha ye to hota hi hoga. It's
hmm.
just
Yeah,
taken for granted. But I think media as an industry has become very mature now, and that's. I don't think kids can use that as an excuse now. to do anything wrong that they want to do because they want to try out something in life.
Yeah.
In fact, on the other hand, people can say that it's parents' fault because they didn't really check on what the kid is doing. So
Yeah.
why blame it on the profession?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that can happen anywhere, and kids today don't need media or any profession as a shield to do it. If
Yeah,
they want to, they will do it.
makes sense. Next, what I wanted to cover was that right now you're officially into the edtech industry. So, in India, where do you see edtech moving in the next 10 years? Like, a lot of people say that edtech is going to replace the traditional norms of education. Like, in the coming 10 years, we will see kids learning from these online platforms and not be much focused in colleges and all. So, according to you, what would be the magnitude of that? Like, will it be that okay, colleges are shutting down and all? Is it going till that high an extent, or is it just that okay, these two industries are moving together? It's not that one is eating up the another. How is it happening?
So, I'm not very sure of the fact whether colleges will become redundant and will shut down, etc.
Yeah.
But yes, if your college is just based on plain theory and is just teaching you bookish knowledge, I don't think children will want to go there anymore. That's definitely what's going to happen. And e-learning and the online learning edtech space has just skyrocketed. It is now a roller coaster,
Yeah.
especially after COVID, when everything is moved online. Like education is right now virtual only. There's nothing physical that is happening.
Yeah.
Great institutions like your Harvards and of the world and Oxfords of the world, they anyways used to follow a model where they used to do virtual plus practical plus case studies, and theoretical was what, some 20% of the syllabus or 10%. So that is a methodology that colleges will have to now completely abide and adopt.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to do that, then as a college you're not going to work for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But edtech now has become really strong, and edtech wants, and every edtech firm is working in a way to strengthen their content as powerfully as maybe a college syllabus would be,
Yeah.
by getting relevant experienced professors, by getting industry experts on board, by making courses that are very implementable and relevant also.
Yeah.
And they are trying to give you what will help you be up to date with, and be with the times.
Yeah.
So edtech is going to grow, and it is going to grow like anything for sure.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think will happen now is that edtech and colleges need to collaborate,
Yeah, that makes sense.
because colleges, it will be tough for colleges to exist in isolation
Yeah.
if you are not giving the relevant practical experience to kids anymore.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of a college is just not to go and study, right? You
Yeah.
also network, you meet new people. There's also personality development that happens, so
Yeah.
that is very important.
Yeah.
And that side of of your personality coming out and becoming more open to the world can only happen when you meet different kind of people and when you get exposure.
Yeah.
So that side of college is very important, and we should actually encourage that. But if the education in colleges are going to go down and become irrelevant, then it's going to be a tough thing to kind of sustain,
Yeah.
and that is where edtech has to come in. So collaboration is only the way forward, because edtech can give them content that is up to date to what the person likes, and the companies are really making an effort to do that actually now.
Yeah. And right now, in the recent news, as they say, a lot of colleges are facing trouble with this online thing happening, because essentially, if I pay 100 rupees to my college, barely like 10-15 rupees goes to the teacher's salary. Like 85 rupees is to maintain the hefty campus. And if online is taking up, these guys are losing on a lot of money. And like there were news wherein a lot of colleges in US were getting bankrupt just because of this like 6 month stretch of Corona. And also like Harvard was into a lot of backlash last week, wherein they said that okay, this particular year we are going to go online, so there will only be online lectures, but their fees for the online lectures was the same, for like it was like some $50,000, and that's the same fees which they were taking for the in-person classes, and that's why they were lashed a lot. And now if an institute like Harvard is facing this sort of friction to adapt to online, like we can't even imagine what the normal institutions would be going through.
No, see, everyone has to rethink their models now, because I don't know how relevant campuses will be going ahead if if your education is 60% going to be online, will you need campuses, such hefty campuses, to sort of have people stay there? That sort of an infrastructure. I don't know. I mean, they have to like think of some sort of a redesigning of their models and cost structures and a lot of things,
Yeah.
and the value that they're going to give to students now. Because see, if you see the larger picture, online education is primarily doing what? It is micro learning. You are learning something instead of reading a full book, you are learning something faster, maybe through lessons, through case studies, through videos, etc. The methodology is changing. There is time based learning. You can do it at your own convenience sometimes if there are lectures online.
Yeah.
If or you can plan your life around it in some way, because वो 2 घंटे का lecture तो करना है, उसके बाद you can do other things.
Yeah.
So so that's sort of an advantage. Faculty online learning is, you're attracting in fact better faculty in online and edtech firms, because you can get people from across the globe.
Yeah.
You can get people from the top honchos and the top industry experts easily. You don't
Yeah.
need to wait for them to fly down or come down. It's happening virtually. Content, as I told you, is being contextualized of what really the viewer wants, or what really the college wants, or what really, let's say in our case, the entrepreneur also wants.
Yeah.
So when we are doing, we are contextualizing that sort of content, and we are also making it interesting.
Yeah.
It's not boring class the way it happens, and with a lot of stuff, gamification, graphics,
Animation.
etc., whatever
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
So in that case, you're making learning so much better, and the experience also better. And experience is one side of it. You're also making the content so rich.
Yeah.
Then if the colleges don't understand that and don't revamp and redesign, or collaborate in the way that they should, then they better shut down. I think it's better.
Yeah, that makes sense. Next, what I wanted to ask you was that with the audience demographics of India, a major friction towards online learning industry is that, or like, the software is great, the content is great, but India still lags behind in the hardware part. As in, right now also in my college, if there is an online lecture, only like 20% people will be having their laptops. Like, rest 80% are still on their mobile phone, and it's tough. It's tough for a mobile phone to handle 3-4 hours of streaming continuously. And even talking about the laptops, most students, most people in general, don't have those high-end laptops that can seamlessly attend live lectures or seamlessly attend virtual classrooms and all. They have the very basic models which can do a good job, but it's not feasible to take it to a long term. So do you think that this lack of hardware is kind of acting as some sort of trouble for the online industry? And if yes, then how is the industry as a whole beating that out?
See, I agree it's tough. The infrastructure to handle a completely online learning system for the entire country
Yeah.
is definitely tough, and we were not ready for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. Yeah, till the time you're not thrown into the water, I think you don't learn how to swim.
Yeah.
Agar ye nahi hota, if this would have not happened, we would have continued in our pace with dhire, how online, edtech space is developing.
Yeah.
And to actually make it reach to the tier 3, tier 4 level would have been really tough. But now everyone has to do it. Majboori hai. You have
Yeah.
to do it. You have to manage it. So, and it's not necessary that everyone can afford a laptop also. But I feel the mobile is also a damn powerful instrument.
Yeah.
And if you can consume that content on the mobile to start with and make yourself accustomed to that, I think it's a great way of starting this whole journey and this whole phase of online learning, because you have to progress gradually in some cases. And I think that's why, because we're just thrown into this sea of water, the infrastructure the focus on infrastructure will be much more in that sense. So obviously, is it tough right now? It is. Do we have the infrastructure? No, we don't have such a vast infrastructure to handle this, but it's happening, right? It's happening everywhere. Everyone is doing their online classes somehow or the other. They're managing. I won't say it's the best scenario, but now that we know that this is what we are going to do in the future, and this is how the future looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm saying more energies will be diverted towards it. Very quick example that comes into my mind is the whole demonetization that happened in digital payments coming in.
Yeah.
Did the entire world transact digitally? Did the entire country transact digitally? Not at all.
They had to.
How many people used net banking before demonetization? See the numbers; it's way below than what people started doing post that.
Yeah, they had to
Now
adapt to that.
even yeah, my driver, my house help, everybody has an account. They digitally do transactions.
Yeah,
Sometimes I give salaries also digitally.
yeah,
So until and unless we were thrown into it, the infrastructure never developed.
makes
So
sense.
I am hoping that now that we see, and education is so integral there to any country.
Yeah,
It is something that will shape the future and of your country and the skilling that has to happen in the country. So I'm sure a lot of energies and a lot of thinking will go in this direction
yeah,
once we have all this COVID behind us,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and we
A
can
lot.
build something much better.
A lot of hardware companies are also looking forward that okay, right now from a lot of student base there has been a surging demand in terms of laptops, in terms of strong devices. A lot of companies in future may go into that, okay, we need to make budget friendly good devices
Yeah,
that
yeah, there might be
can
low
handle.
cost models coming in. You never know. There might be, anyways, you have such low cost tablets, anyways, in the market.
Yeah,
There could be other innovations around it. I'm sure everyone is thinking on those lines. In fact, we being a content company, obviously, right now we are only giving content, but we are also trying to, build through our app, through our technology and interface that is so seamless on the mobile. So that if you're watching it on the mobile, आपको इतनी problem ही ना हो.
yeah,
So, companies like us also are trying to do it on our end in terms of technology, to make sure that you also understand and get the content very easily.
yeah,
There's not too much tamjham you need to do, and I'm
yeah,
sure the hardware infrastructure companies, the companies that are into all these laptops, in fact even the bandwidth companies, the internet, everything, I think everything is going to now align themselves to work towards making this a little more seamless.
yeah, that makes sense. Next, I wanted to switch gears to the mass comm side of things. In the start of this podcast, you mentioned that there are a lot of people who are behind that one show or that one like primetime news that you watch. There are a lot of people working behind. I wanted to ask that we see all these Bollywood interviews and all happening on news channels. So, if you could just run me through the process, like 0 to 1, like how does things happen? Like, so I'll give you my rough idea of it. There must be a PR team from the side of the actor. There must be a relationship manager or some sort of thing from the channel side. They might be communicating, they might be setting the dates and timings and all. And then these guys meet and then the shoot happens. The post production takes is taken care by the channel. And like then there are some people from the actors side who then like just watch and give a green signal that okay, this piece is worthy to go on air. So this is my rough idea of it. So if you could just run us through the process, how does this thing
So
happen?
you're very close to how it happens, and you asking this question, one thing I makes it clarifies one thing, that everyone loves Bollywood. So kuch
Yeah,
na kuch we need to know about how Bollywood happens,
yeah,
because so entertainment genre is a big part of obviously television and its programming.
yeah,
And how it really happens from step 0 to step 1 is that of course the actors have their PR agencies, their managers who we have to fix interviews with. And from our end, we have entertainment reporters and entertainment desk team who have been in the field, working in the field of entertainment.
yeah,
And most of them have built a rapport with them, with the managers, with the PR team of these actors.
yeah,
And also when there's a film promotion, these actors are very readily available to come on different channels to talk about the film and other things associated. So you will always see during film promotions it is easier to get the actors, rather than if you want to do a specific interview during the year with them.
yeah,
But that also you have to obviously raise a special request, and you have to tell them what's the interview around and what kind of questions will be there and who is going to do the interview, etc. And if there is a go ahead from their end, then a suitable time and place is decided, and the crew then goes there, does their setup, and the interview happens. And we being a news channel, we don't take, or once the interview is shot, we really don't show them the edits post that. We
okay,
don't take permissions from them to okay it, because the content is our proprietary then.
okay,
And they were anyways there to kind of see when it was being shot, and if they had a problem they would have stopped at that very moment and we could have reshot
yeah,
whatever piece if they were not comfortable with. But once it's back into our office on our edits, then it's our prerogative of what to keep and what not to keep.
Yeah.
And according to the duration of the show, the content is edited accordingly,
Yeah.
and then finally packaged with the show name and the packaging that you see when the
Yeah.
show goes on air. And it's put on air on the time that is mutually decided, or whatever time the show usually goes on.
Yeah.
So yes, there could be a chase to get Bollywood celebrities on for an interview if they're not running any promotions at that point of time. But that chase is a part of the entertainment genre that you've sort of chosen to be in.
Yeah.
So whoever is reporting or working on it, for them it's I think a routine job to sort of figure out what interviews they want to do, etc. So
Yeah.
that's how the whole Bollywood setup really works. Sometimes they come to your studios, usually in Bombay that happens because if they're traveling, etc.
Yeah.
Sometimes they take you behind the scenes also for some of their movies. So it's just subject to what kind of interaction you're doing and what sort of a feel you want to give to that interaction.
Yeah, makes sense. Uh, I would end the interview with a question which I like asked to all the guests, that now that you have been through this whole conversation and you have answered each and every question, if you wanted to just explain it to someone in a minute, why they need to listen to this whole 1 hour conversation, then what would that be?
Okay, so in Bada business style, I think I'll make it very implementable and pointer wise for them. If they want to watch a podcast that will give them an insight into the world of journalism, b know what job roles and skills are necessary to master that art. Three, understand the whole idea of passion and true calling.
Yeah.
And four, that if they want to know about what the medium is currently going through and how digital and TV are sort of juxtaposed right now, and someone who's done a career switch can give some deeper insights like me, they can listen to this podcast, and these four things will give them a clarity on moving ahead in a career in a field like mass communications that can be very intimidating and also great fun at the same time.
Yeah. So thank you for being on this podcast. And it was literally a learning thing for me because I'm also very much involved into this entire genre of how mass communication works. And from it, this podcast for me personally was a great learning out of it.
Great, great. I think I've entered into a space in my life right now which is very exciting and related to only learning.
Yeah.
So either I am learning something or I'm helping people learn a lot of stuff. So if anything that I do is associated and can help anyone learn something from it, I think that is the ultimate reward that I can get out of anything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I think thank you for this opportunity, and I hope whoever watches this podcast on your channel or your social media handles and is interested in mass comm will have definitely a clarity on what they want to do in this at least in this field.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. That's happening.